My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. There almost seems to be a bit of a hush descending on this World Cup after the most prominent team, after the favourites have made an exit from the tournament. And even though you've got the host nation and multiple world champions playing today in the next semi-final, there just does not seem to be a buzz about it at the moment, at least from here. But the two teams will have plenty of buzz in their own camps, I can tell you. It's a competitive rivalry. It's England versus Australia, so let's not play it down. Let's play it up because it's going to be a cracking cricket match for different reasons. England have had a few losses getting in there and they've somehow scrambled their way into the semi-finals, whereas Australia, they've almost marched their way, except for that one loss to South Africa right at the end, which put them from first to second and got them a place in Birmingham, not at Old Trafford. The usual suspects in the studio, Zaheer Khan, Robin Uthappa. We've got to try and bring ourselves back to getting excited about this as professionals.
We do, don't we? And it's just one of those days. You wake up in the morning, you're like, with that sinking feeling in your stomach, knowing that India's not going to be there in the finals, and just feel like, man, but then yes, professionals got to do what we got to do, and set that aside for later. But yeah, very interesting game today. Rehearsal of what we're going to see over the next few months between England and Australia, and I think a good way to start off the semi-finals.
It's interesting, Zaheer, because this talk in England generally, other than with India, has been, would you rather win the Ashes or would you rather win the World Cup? Everyone's been asking this. That's your standard vox pop. Now here is a strange one. You've got to do both. If you've got to win this rivalry, it's pretty much one more step towards winning a World Cup. Another one for Australia, a first one for England.
And I'm sure that's why there is a lot of excitement around this game, because it's, I mean, Ashes, yes, Australia and England, it's huge. It's like India, Pakistan to a certain degree with regard to cricket. These rivalries are very famous and has a history, a long history of it. So when Australia is playing England, that excitement is surely going to be there. That yes, Ashes is a separate discussion altogether. But here it's like mini Ashes of sorts. So before they reach the finals, I think they will, even if they lose in the finals, they'll be saying, okay, we beat Australia in the semis. Yeah. That's the kind of attitude English supporters will have for sure. The match is played in Birmingham on home soil, so that adds to that extra bit of support as well. So you will get to see that as well. The energy on in the stands will be good. There will be a lot of support for England. And I think for us to see a final which is going to be of sure shot new World Cup winner, you want England to win, isn't it? Yep. Australia has had their fill. They've won 5 World Cups. Now I think it's time England continue that momentum what they've gotten in the semis from those two important wins when there was a lot of pressure. You would expect them to deal with that pressure in the semis as well. And even though they've lost the toss, I feel England surely will look at it as, on the hindsight, may not be a bad toss to lose because they will be making use of the fresh wicket. Jofra will be running in hard. Vokes, if there is a little bit of help in the wicket, can be effective. They've gone in with the same team to keep this the momentum of the league phase going. So all in all, hope that that first hour goes England's way.
Yes, that's the England team, as I said, absolutely unchanged. 2 massive wins. I mean, now in the context of seeing New Zealand in the final, they've beaten India and New Zealand in their run-up to getting there after a loss. Now, the difference between the India-New Zealand semi-final and this one is, this is actually a repeat game. India and New Zealand never actually ended up meeting in the league stage, thanks to the rain. So it was the first time meeting between those two sides, but England and Australia did meet once in this tournament on the 25th of June at Lord's. And this is what happened. Australia, again on that occasion, batted first and got 285 for 7, and England, who haven't had a great time chasing in this tournament, were well behind, 221 all out. They've enjoyed setting totals in this tournament, as have many other teams, particularly in this half.
They have, and in that game, what was different from the other games was that it was Jason Barendorf's, I think, first or second game in the World Cup. So that factor is not going to surprise England anymore. They're going to have a contention plan against him and all the other bowlers as well. But I think what will be important for England will be the way they start off today. I think again I'm going to repeat what I've been saying over the last week, is that the first 10 overs is going to be very critical in which direction this match is going to go. I think the first 10 overs, if England can get a couple of wickets in that first 10, not allow that opening partnership to be more than 15 runs, 15-20 runs, they'll put themselves in a great position to win the game. Because you can see that the middle order hasn't really fired outside of Alex Carey. Steven Smith has tapered off. Peter Handscomb is coming into his first game in the World Cup. They've had injuries. So that middle order is not looking very sharp. So if they can crack that opening partnership, then they've got one foot in the door.
But they certainly have. On the other side of the coin, Australia seem to have something when it comes to World Cup semi-finals. They've never lost a World Cup semi-final. Have a look at this record. The only one that is technically why it's not showing 7-7 is because they actually progressed in 1999 at the same venue, Birmingham, in that famous tied game, which of course allowed them to go through to the final and win one of their 5 World Cups. For England, a very different record. So that really puts them in a slight advantageous position if you look at history.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, Australia at the moment before the start of the game has that upper hand. They won the toss as well now, batting first. The record in this tournament itself suggests that, teams batting first have had that advantage. So that advantage is always there. But what I like to see from England right now in this game, the thing which they've not done against Australia in the previous match, where when the first spell of the match, both the bowlers were a bit conservative in their approach. They were not thinking wickets. I think if England goes in and starts this game having lost the toss now, goes in with the attitude of picking wickets, I think that will help them in a great way, setting the tone for the match. And if that happens, then that advantage will shift from Australia to England, because you can see that the over dependence on that start has been very evident right through and through. So suddenly in a crucial match, similar thing happened with India as well. That top order has been so consistent, and suddenly your worst nightmare comes true in a crucial stage, and that pressure, how you going to deal with, because you've not equipped in dealing with that kind of pressure. So similarly with these two teams, their opening stands have been good. Now England has been having that upward curve, wherein Australia has been having that downward curve as they moved into the semis. So that's going to be interesting thing. So the advantage with Australia at the moment before the start of the match, but that advantage can really slip very quickly with no time if England walks in with that kind of approach which we were talking about.
And since we're going into history, since this is the topic of history, I want to bring up this one fact that Australia haven't won in Edgbaston since 1993. So even that tied game took them forward, but they didn't win a game.
So the record at Edgbaston.
So history also balances itself out today.
Love it, right? Robin.
So so it really is about how you go and play today. And I think if England can go with that attitude and say, let me get wickets in the first 10 overs, let me see if I can peg 2 or 3 back. If they're able to do that, they're halfway there.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, if very different records that Australia boast of at Lord's, which is England's home of cricket, and at Edgbaston. But just going back to that opening partnership, England have that opening partnership, and then they have the solidity of a Root and the likes of Butler to follow, and Ben Stokes, of course. But with Australia, suddenly with no Khwaja around, it's not looking as settled. Smith has changed his position, and there's Peter Handscomb coming in, Stoinis, Maxwell. None of them have really delivered.
Yeah, so they've been patchy. The top 2 have been fantastic for them. Steven Smith came into the tournament with a lot of form, but has tapered off. Peter Handscomb's first game, so you can't have super high expectations of him. Marcus Stoinis and Glenn Maxwell have been patchy.
Only Alex Carey's shone.
If best. And Alex Carey has actually stood out, and we've even questioned if he could come up the order for Australia. Slightly more higher than where he is, and then allow someone like Maxwell to play that role of a finisher, than making Alex Carey that player to try and finish games for Australia. So there is a lot of uncertainty in that middle order, as in when you look at it from the outside.
Yeah, in fact, Australians themselves see a lot of Gilchrist in Alex Carey. So who knows, a few months, years down the line, we could see him actually play that Gilchrist role at the top of the order. But just taking it a step forward and talking about Steven Smith, who's got a sterling record in this tournament. But though you'd have to call it a tournament of two halves. First 5 matches, he was looking like, yes, that's the Steve Smith that we've been used to watching. Average just under 50, got himself 350s. Yes, didn't get to 100. Little Kohli-esque to start the tournament. Just when he got to 50, you expected him to go further. He didn't get there. But look at that, the last 4 games.
Yeah, see, it would be unfair to actually say just last 4 games he hasn't done well. I think in 2 of those games he came only in, like his batting order was shifted to an extent where he came in at number 5 in one game. He came in at number, I think, 6.
Yeah, they were trying to push the runs on him.
Yeah, so it would be unfair to say that he didn't perform, but he didn't get the opportunity also to perform. So he's also a very good knockout match player. I think if you pull out his stats of how he's done in knockout games in ICC tournaments over the last few years, you'd see that he's someone who stood out. I remember in the last semi-final of the World Cup against India, he got 100, smashing 100, which took India out of the tournament. So he is someone that they will have to watch out for. He's come back to his natural, original position. That could be a blessing in disguise for Steven Smith and for Australia. But if you can get him out, then Australia are in deep trouble.
Yeah, we talk so much about knockout fixtures when obviously India were knocked out of against New Zealand. It's just that one-off, but it's that one-off time where you need to get a class player like Steve Smith to step up and say that, okay, fine, this is the last chance. I need to get the runs on the board.
And that's what that's why they are special players, isn't it? You've seen over the years every time a consistent player step up, they rise to the occasion. That's something which has always been the case. And by that lookout, you have these 2 or 3 standout players in Australian side. When it comes to batting, you would want Warner and Steve Smith both to come to the party and rise to the occasion. And from bowling side, you would want Mitchell Starc to continue what he has been doing. So these are the 3 components which are very vital for today's success as far as Australia is concerned. And with big players, that expectation of performance in crucial matches is always there, and that's what you thrive on. As cricketers, you always look at these kind of opportunities where there is high expectations on your team, and you contribute to that. And nothing is more satisfying than contributing in at these kind of levels. So from that point of view, Steve Smith will be very upbeat. He's getting his position which he always feels comfortable in, where he can take his time and build an innings. So that's something which we may get to see, and apart from those top 3, I'm not sure who is going to bat at number 4. That is another thing which we'll have to wait and see what kind of mindset thinking has gone about in terms of Australia putting that thing, because Peter Handscomb has not batted at number 4 as far as I remember for Australia leading up to the World Cup as well.
5, yeah.
He has been batting at number 5. They've been trying Marcus Stoinis at that number 4, giving him that extra bit of time, or Alex Carey will be an option. So that is something which will be interesting to see what kind of thought process has gone in, considering it's a knockout game, and they have to makeshift that batting order a bit.
It's funny we're not the only. It's funny we're not the only one with number 4 issues.
I was just saying, and we are not going to stop talking about it. Come what, which team, where it is. It's all about the number 4 this World Cup, whichever team it is. Well, it doesn't matter what your batting order is when you pick your My 11 Circle team, whether you've got to get somebody in at number 4, as long as you get 11 in. The big number is 11. Choose 11 players, and the 12th man, of course, his name is Sourav Ganguly. He sits on the sidelines. He picks a team. Today's match is England versus Australia, and your competition is you against Dada. And that is going to be all about the battle. 5 times the amount of cash if you can get more points than Sourav Ganguly. But there's another man, of course, who I'm presuming we'll have to say farewell to after, sadly, with a heavy heart saying farewell to India. And that's a gentleman called Mr. Jingonath, who's been entertaining us throughout.
इंडिया के हारने का मुझे है गम, पर कंपनी ने पैसा दिया है इसीलिए मैं आ गया बर्मिंघम। आईपीएल में हमसे कमाया और वर्ल्ड कप में हम ही को हराया। उस 2 दिन के मैच ने ले ली मेरी जान, पर चेहरे पे आई खुशी क्योंकि वी बीट पाकिस्तान। बर्मिंघम में अब होगा इंग्लैंड और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के बीच विस्फोट और मैं करूंगा इंग्लैंड को सपोर्ट। कमेंट्री करने वाले चाचा गोरों की तरह गोरा टी शर्ट, आप इंग्लिश में कमेंट्री करते हैं, क्या आप इंग्लैंड के सपोर्टर हैं?
I just talk cricket.
अगर तुम सोच रहे हो क्यों कर रहा है जिंगोनाथ अंग्रेजों की गुलामी, क्या वो बन गया है कितना बड़ा, तो ये सुनो, इंग्लैंड को शुक्रिया कि उन्होंने बनाया इंडिया और पाकिस्तान। अगर ये पड़ोसी ना होते तो प्राइम टाइम में मैं कैसे फूंकता अपनी जान। मैडम नफरत लेंगे आप? नफरत लेंगे आप? नफरत ले लीजिए मैडम। चाचा इंग्लैंड वर्सेस ऑस्ट्रेलिया।
2 हफ्ते से देख रहा हूँ तुमको, प्रॉब्लम क्या है तुम्हारी?
चाचा नफरत बिकती है चाचा।
खेल है, खैर नहीं समझोगे।
चाचा आपकी उम्र हो गई है, रिटायर हो जाओ, कमेंट्री बॉक्स में मुझे बिठा दो, नफरत मैं फैलाऊंगा। Every many India speak English A to Z. All thanks to Daddy Elizabeth. इंग्लैंड ने हमें दिया पोस्टल, रेलवे और रोड, इसीलिए नहीं बुलाऊंगा मैं उन्हें बेन स्टोक्स बोला, उसमें क्या गलती है? ऑस्ट्रेलिया को सपोर्ट करने का क्या है रीजन? इनकी वजह से हमारा टर्मिनेटर ऑलमोस्ट चला गया था इन प्रिजन। और इसी के साथ मेरे हिंदुस्तान जाने का समय आ चुका है। भाड़ में गया वर्ल्ड कप, बहुत कर लिया पाउंड पे खर्चा, अब वापस जाऊंगा और प्राइम टाइम में करूंगा पॉलिटिक्स पे चर्चा। एयरपोर्ट छोड़ सकते हैं आप? एयरपोर्ट छोड़ेंगे आप? अरे मुफ्त में वो तो कर दो, वही नु लेके गए, एयरपोर्ट ड्रॉप कर दो भाई।
He's still waiting for a ride to the airport. He hasn't got one because he's not willing to pay for it. Elizabeth Dadi, did he call her?
Yeah, he did.
But it's interesting because Elizabeth Dadi is overseeing both the teams today.
Yes, she
Yeah,
is.
there's Union Jack in both the flags.
Yeah.
So it's they all still bow to the Queen.
They do.
In fact, all 3 teams that are left in the tournament all have the Union Jack left. So it's all about the empire. Which part of the empire? It's only the people who broke away from the empire that have now unfortunately left the tournament, sadly. But anyway, let's not get political
Yes.
or geographical or geopolitical here.
I love that timed silence from Zach. Like, this will get over. Let's move on.
What am I talking about? Oh, that's the influence of Jingo Nath. Oh, he's such a good guy. Anyway, I hope he got his place in there. Little word about India's captain. We didn't get enough chance to talk about Virat Kohli and everything that he said after the game. So, just a quick word. Let's have a look at what he finally set out. To go out on the basis of just 45 minutes of bad cricket is saddening, and it's the line we're going to touch upon shortly. It breaks your heart also because you have worked so hard throughout the tournament to build momentum. You finished number 1 on the table, and then a spell of bad cricket, you're out of the tournament completely. If topping the table means anything, I think playoffs can come into consideration looking at the magnitude of the tournament. A valid point, you never know when that is going to be implemented. Now, I'll have to say it's not a case of sour grapes. It's not a case of we being hurt because India are out of the tournament. Gentlemen, we've been saying this from the start of the tournament. It could happen to anyone. We just said someone could top the group, meet that 4th place team who's a little extra hungry. You could have a half an hour bad, 1 hour bad, and you're out of the tournament. And all that effort to get to number 1 or even getting to the semi-finals could be naught.
Well, it's a matter of perception, I think, and to be very honest, it's something that can be discussed. Well, if you're going to play the tournament if this is the way that it's going to be played in the future as well, then that discussion may come into play. But if they're going to change the format moving forward, then it may not even be a point.
If you're in groups,
yeah. If you're in two groups, then
to me, I think that is a bigger discussion than this. You know, being discussing about playoffs or not. I think the format needs to be discussed. Before the start of the tournament, also, I've never been a big fan of this kind of a format, which could have been a bit boring as well had England not lost to Sri Lanka. 2 weeks in a World Cup to have a dull phase, where the matches are inconsequential, pretty much. It doesn't really endorse the game, or doesn't really make the game that appealing globally. So that is something which I feel should be the discussion, that what is the right kind of format, what is the right number of teams, because you want more and more countries to participate at this level, and if that means that you have to have more teams and go away from this kind of a format, so be it. I think what's important is to have that competition which you can still get it in the next phase of the tournament, which I think in 2003 they followed that format. Wasn't a bad format, because you want the teams to come and learn also. You've seen how Afghanistan has improved as a team, and the whole beauty of World Cup is knockout games. So you want you want underdogs also of the tournament to go up and have the opportunity to have a shot at the World Cup. The more predictable the format, it's going to be that much harder for people to be interested in, or for you to create that interest with more and more people. So that's something, the way I look at things. I think what's important is to have a discussion around what is the ideal kind of format, because I love the unpredictability of World Cup. You wait for 4 years and then you go in that tournament and you are not sure, whether you are a good team, bad team, or whatever. Any bad day, like how 45 minutes of bad play can throw you out of the tournament, and your dreams of winning the World Cup can come crashing, is something which is going to make the format interesting. So I think the knockout phase of the tournament is the most important phase of any World Cup, and that's something which they have to go back to. So rather than making it even more predictable by having playoffs, I think they have to make it even more unpredictable by adding more teams and creating a scenario where you can have a big team getting knocked out early as well, and the knockout phase should be a bit lengthened phase. So you can have, say, pre-quarterfinals, quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. So that will make even more interesting viewing, and you have to, as a team, keep on pushing and knowing that you can be thrown out of the World Cup anytime. That will also make things very interesting.
Which is pretty much, you're talking about, say, a football World Cup where you've got teams of,
or I think any Grand Slam.
That's pure knockout. Grand Slam is pure knockout. So you've got round of 128 going all the way to the final. But I'm saying a league come knockout.
Yeah, but I agree with Zach when you say pre-quarterfinals, quarters, semis, finals. Then it builds that intensity towards the middle to the end of the tournament, right? And I think that would be something that they should probably discuss. I think you ask a cricketer who's playing, it wouldn't matter at the beginning of a tournament if the format's round robin or if it's a group format. All he cares about is about going in and winning the tournament at the end. And this is something that the administrator should sit down and figure out, if what's the best formula in a tournament like this to keep the interest going from the first game to the last game. The viewership should increase, or the viewership should sustain, because it's a 50-over game. Now, how are you going to keep that going? So these are discussions that they should have and figure out what's the most ideal one.
Yep. Let's just have a look at the points table, and this is what sums up what the format was this time. The plus side of course, is from a spectator point of view, you get to see every team playing every other team. That's what we saw in '92 for the first time. Now, if you have a look at this scenario, let's assume that England prevails over Australia today. You're going to have number 3 playing number 4 in the World Cup final. 1 and 2 have played brilliant cricket, consistent to get there. but that's all as far as they've got. So now that's knockout is there, but it's just one knockout and one chance.
Yeah, but you wouldn't say you'd say the same thing to Roger Federer, right? In a knockout game, in a quarterfinal or a semi-final of a Grand Slam. If he lost there, it's not like in spite of him not dropping a set the whole tournament.
But
if he goes and loses in the quarterfinals or in the semis, you're not going to say that he's played so well consistently, so he probably needs another chance in that tournament, and that. It's debatable.
I fully agree with you, Robin. The only counter to that is if Roger Federer was playing in a league tournament where 10 of the world's best were playing, everyone played everyone, and then you had a quick semi-final. So the person who's played the best tennis plays up there, gets to number one, and then suddenly is faced with one knockout game, has bad half an hour, and gets knocked out.
Yeah, but that's sport, right?
Fair
that
enough.
Is sport. That is the beauty of sport. You can't. It's not. That's what makes sport so endearing to so many people. The fact that you can do 10 things right, but on the 11th day when that half an hour which you've been doing for 10 days, hands down been doing it right, on the 11th day you don't turn up for half an hour. That can change your story. That's the story of life, right? It's also how we should perceive life. So for me, this is very debatable. It shouldn't be amongst cricketers. I think it should be more about the administrators seeing which has more entertainment value, more viewership value, and have tournaments based on that. But I think, like Zach Bhai said, the progressive tournament where you have a pre-quarters, quarters, semis, and finals will make it even more interesting. Because then you see the intensity building with each game for each team. Now, whoever qualifies to the pre-quarters, there's intensity. It might be a slightly easy game. Then you go to the quarters, and it's slightly tougher. Semis is going to be a tough game, and you get to the finals, and it's on that day.
And adding more teams is actually going to help the game grow to a wider audience.
Yeah, because if you have pre-quarters, that means by definition you're saying you've got 20 plus teams.
Yeah, 16 teams, right? Yeah. So basically you understand, okay, the quality of cricket may suffer. I think the whole format had come into existence because the importance to the quality of cricket had been given. You can still have the round robin. Instead of having 10 teams, have 6 teams playing that. Yeah. If you want to go that way in terms of quality of cricket, but you have to expose more and more teams at this level, because what the experience which they're going to get, and it's once in 4 years. It's not that you're doing it every year.
Absolutely.
That is more valuable. That at least the teams who will be participating through the qualifiers to play the World Cup, they will understand what it takes to compete at this level. And they have the 4 years to actually work on that and get more and more ready, like World Cup ready, or get better at it. Have signed professionals. There are so many cricketers right now, so you have to go in that direction. There is no other way of growing the game.
It's really become time to make cricket like a global game, and you've seen that in T20, and it's been a little more inclusive. But I think making it more inclusive, and once in 4 years you can actually really afford it to make it more inclusive. Like you see even in the Football World Cup, so many teams playing the qualifiers, and eventually it boils down to a bunch of teams where that the first phase is not going to be as interesting as the middle and the end phase. So that intensity also builds with viewership, right? Yeah. So and that should be done in cricket. Cricket should be more inclusive to all the other countries, all the countries in a very nascent stage as well. You give them an opportunity that builds hope, then the government also gets involved, starts developing cricket within the country. And there's so many cricketers around the world, who would be probably willing to play as professionals to build up countries and their cricketing abilities within those countries. And so the opportunity grows, and the game is so global today. It deserves to be more inclusive.
Yep, so I think that perfectly sums up our discussion on that. We've just got a little bit left in terms of our joy factor question. Now, does he have something that's reactive to yesterday? No, it doesn't. This cricketer played his first test match 8 years after his first ODI match. He had a record-breaking streak in test cricket, which was finally broken by Mark Craig. He was also Shane Warne and Yusuf Pathan's teammate in the IPL. So you've kind of narrowed things down, and that'll be an interesting one. First test match 8 years after the ODIs. we also have a little prediction to make, but on the back of the fact that Australia are already a wicket down, Aaron Finch, goodbye, back in the pavilion. So I wonder if that changes anything to do with the predictions you were about to make 5 seconds before I just said that. The My 11 Circle expert scout projection. Okay, gentlemen?
I was only trying to be subtle today, but I'm glad it's coming through. It was very important for England to get that first wicket. I think it really is going to make their life a lot more easier, but they still have to put a lot of pressure. So I'd say Australia 225.
All right.
I'm going in with 285. I think there'll still be a high scoring game. I'm still sticking to England winning the match. I think they've got the inroads, but still there will be 285 runs scored by Australia.
All right. I have no choice but to go in between.
He's how he's setting it. Says, I have no choice. You have all the choice to go to 180 also.
Or go to 320.
You have a choice.
Fine. I was going to go 249, but because Robin said that, I'm going to go up. I'm going to go to 301.
Oh.
Just for fun.
Just
Steve
for fun.
Smith. Come on, Steve Smith. Yeah. All right, there you go. Cricbuzz Combox in the 15th over. We've had a fabulous discussion about the road ahead, for what possibilities lie for the future of World Cups, formats, etc. What can be more fun? Maybe you can have your say as well. Let's get your suggestions in on hashtag Cricbuzz Live along with your answers to the Joy Factor question. We'll try and feature some interesting answers if we have them in future. For now, let's stick to Cricbuzz Combox in the 15th over. This has been My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.